Mrs. Shrem,
Here.
Mrs. Seward, and Mrs. Rosado.
Here. Sunshine Law, be advised that this meeting is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975, Sunshine Law, and that adequate notice of the date, time, and agenda has been sent to the Asbury Park Press and the Star Ledger and has been posted and filed with the Marlboro Township Clerk. Copies have also been sent to each district school and other area newspapers in accordance with the law. I'm not going to read in full, but draw your attention to the statement of videotaping of public portion of Board of Education meetings, public comment statements, no smoking on school grounds. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Executive session resolution. Be it resolved that in accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, the Marlboro Township Board of Education shall conduct a closed executive session pursuant to the exceptions prescribed by NJSA 10:4-12 for the purpose of discussing personnel matters and matters of attorney-client privilege. It is anticipated that the length of time of this executive session will be 60 minutes and that action will be taken in public after the executive session. Be it further resolved that the minutes of the executive session will be released when the need for confidentiality in accordance with NJSA 10:4-12 no longer applies. Can I get a second? Carrie, any discussion? I see none. Roll call.
Mrs. Jankowski,
Yes.
Mr. Lalansky,
Yes.
Mrs. Mendez,
Yes.
Mr. Petruno, Mrs. Shrem,
Yes.
and Mrs. Rosado.
Yes. Okay, see you in about an hour. We're in closed session. To get started, Vin, if you can do roll call.
Mrs. Belomo,
Here.
Mrs. Jankowski,
Here.
Mr. Lolansky,
Here.
Mrs. Mendez,
Here.
Mr. Petruno, Mrs. Piernick,
Here.
Mrs. Shrem,
Here.
Mrs. Seward,
Here.
and Mrs. Rosato.
Here. Student recognition.
Good evening. Mrs. Bono's third grade G&T students from Robertsville Elementary School stretched their fluency and flexibility to apply the creative problem-solving process. Working through divergent thinking activities, students applied critical thinking skills to analyze lyrics, synthesizing words with melody to produce an original song to the tune of Help by the Beatles. Mrs. Bono could not be here tonight this evening. However, Principal Mrs. Jill Green is here to introduce her students. Please welcome.
Good evening. On behalf of Mrs. Bono, who unfortunately is under the weather and couldn't be here this evening, I'd like to introduce our third grade PEP students from Robertsville Elementary School. In class, the students participated in the creative problem-solving process. They've worked through divergent and critical thinking activities to analyze song lyrics and produce an original song to the tune of Help by the Beatles. As part of the creative problem-solving process, students engaged in brainstorming, questioning, problem-solving, mental fluency, and elaboration. Ultimately, they produced an original product, which they'll share with you tonight. I would like to thank Mrs. Bono, who's always enthusiastic about highlighting the academic successes of Robertsville students, Mrs. Sand Talmadge, the Robertsville music teacher who will be accompanying our students, and Mrs. Kim Georges, the vice principal, for helping organize tonight's program. Without further ado, I am immensely proud to present the Robertsville third grade PEP students.
So board, do the students usually present facing you or facing like the us? Okay, because they're here for you. All right. So why don't we line it up so that group
They
one
c-
is
Could you have them just like do it like a semicircle so that they could see their parents? Yeah.
so nice of you. All right, so good to-
Mommy and
Group
Daddy
one, you're going to
pictures.
be right here. And then group two, why don't we go this, like, yeah, there we go. Like group two, you're going to go here. Group three, you're going to go here. Group four, you're going to bring it around. 5 and 6 over here. And we'll just kind of switch spots. So after you sing, go back to your previous spot. Something like that. There we go. Stay in your groups.
Hi, my name is Michaela. And I'm Suhavi. And I'm Arav. And today we'll be performing the song Pool Days. Pool, we jump right in. Pool, we splash each other. Pool, why is it closing? Pool. When the pool was open, it was so refreshing. We love to splash around and dive right in. Sometimes we flip and jump into the deep water. We can cannonball and splash all our friends. Say goodbye to those summer days. Say hello 'cause winter's here to stay. Say goodbye to those summer days. So won't you please bring the sun, the sun, the sun.
Hi, I'm Ion, and today I'll be performing the song Beach. Beach, feel the sunshine. Beach, play in the sand. Beach, waves crash at your feet. Beach, walking on the beach, get some sand on your feet. I can go snorkeling and see some stingrays, but now the sun is gone and I don't know what to do. Building sandcastles and looking towards the sea. Please make the sunshine come back so I can play and go jet skiing. Let me jump into the crashing waves. Won't you please bring the sun, the sun, the sun back?
Hi, I'm Avni.
I'm Colin. And I'm Rohit.
We will be performing pools.
Pools, it's so much fun. Pools, we swim in water. Pools, it's super cold. Pools, when it was hotter, so much hotter than today. We want to swim and splash and play all day. Now that winter's here and the pool is closing, say goodbye to bathing suits and hello to snow sledding. Why does summer have to be so short? We learned to swim, but then we forgot how. Now I'm sad because I cannot swim. Can I please, please go swim, go swim, go swim?
I'm Laksh. And I'm Gavin. I'm Elizabeth. And we will be performing the song Beaches.
Beach, feel the sunshine. Beach, we played in the sand. Beach, the waves crash at your feet. Beach, walking on the beach, you feel the sand and the heat. The ocean water is so refreshing. You see sharks swimming by playing with dolphins. Say goodbye to sandcastles as waves crash on in. Tides come out at night with the moon. The beach can hold a bonfire too. The ocean water keeps you very cool. Won't you please visit the beach, the beach, the beach?
Hi, I'm Emma.
I'm Akshaj.
Today we will be performing the song Pools. Pool, we swim in it. Pool, refreshing water. Pool, we don't want to leave it. Pool. When we were younger, we learned how to swim in the pool. Always needing someone to accompany us in. Now we can hold our breath and don't need any help. We can dive and also flip and are way more confident. Swim with me and jump right in the deep end. Flip and dive and splash on this hot day. Help us get back into the pool. Won't you please swim with me, with me, with me?
I'm Ajay. I'm Akshaj. And I'm Gavin. We will be performing our song Break.
Break, there is no school. Break, there is the pool. Break, why does it feel so short? Break. When I was younger, school was different than today. We used to get snowstorms and play outside all day. Now there's global warming and school on every weekday. We wait for holidays and winter breaks to play. Break, why are you so very rare? We need you so we can go cut our hair. We need to know why you're only on weekends. We need a break from school, yes, we need a break from school.
I just want to congratulate all of those young boys and girls for an amazing job. Move over, Beyonce and Justin Timberlake, because you guys did an amazing job singing and constructing those lyrics of that song. I see a common theme, though. Summer, break, beaches, pools. I loved it. I'm ready for it. Thank you so much for sharing your talents with us. Great job again. Student impact.
Thank you. In collaboration with its PTA and school library program, Asher Holmes Elementary School recently welcomed graphic novelist Jason Patterson as a special guest. Students learned about the elements of a comic and participated in a challenge to create an original story using Patterson's characters. 12 comics were selected, and those creators worked with Mr. Silva, art teacher, and Mrs. Allen, library media specialist, to revise and edit the comics. The authors then collaborated to create a more cohesive story. There were pencilers, inkers, colorists, to name a few. They worked together to create the final product, which is actually up here in the front of the boardroom. We have a quick video for you, just so you can see the different process that took place.
In collaboration with its PTA and school library program, Asher Holmes recently welcomed graphic novelist Jason Patterson as a special guest. He spoke to students about the creation of writing a graphic novel and read students his most recent story. To prepare for his visit, students in grades 3 through 5 studied all genres of graphic novels, specifically Patterson's adventure series titled Blue, Berry, and Pancakes. Students were able to ask Jason questions and get their books personally signed by him. Prior to his visit, students learned about the elements of a comic and participated in a challenge to create an original story using Patterson's characters. 12 comics were selected, and those creators worked with Mr. Silva and Mrs. Allen to revise and edit the comics. The authors then collaborated to create a more cohesive story. Writers, pencilers, inkers, letterers, colorists, and producers were the important roles assigned to students for the creation of their own graphic novel. The final product is still a work in progress, since each step requires a great deal of focus and effort, but everyone is looking forward to their completed graphic novel.
Thank you so much. Artwork on display.
The artwork displayed in the board office comes to us from Miss Lawson's art classes at Marlboro Middle School. The 6th grade general art students enhance their technical drawing skills by using the technique of one-point perspective to create a cityscape. The students studied the different characteristics of one-point perspective and architecture from places around the world. 8th grade general art students enhance their technical drawing skills by using a grid to create proportional superhero drawings. The artwork exhibits the students' effort in creating meaningful and impactful art. We also have artwork from Champions. The Champions pop art theme was the inspiration behind the Marlboro Elementary School Artist Fall into Winter project. Students at Marlboro Elementary learned about Ben-Day dots, Andy Warhol, and comic strips as they celebrated the pop art culture. The vibrant colors used to create colorful fall leaves will lead us into the winter wonder months. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'd like to just make a motion to take a 5-minute recess to let all of our performers go home for bedtime. Do I have a second? Aldo? Any discussion? I see none. All in favor? Any opposed? 5-minute recess. Thank you. Roll call, Vin?
Mrs. Belomo?
Here.
Mrs. Jankowski?
She's here.
Mr. Lewandowski?
Here.
Mrs. Mendez?
Here.
Mr. Petruno? Mrs. Piernick?
Here.
Mrs. Shrem?
Here.
Mrs. Seward?
Here.
And Mrs. Rosado?
Here. Announcements. Michael?
Thank you. I do have one announcement. One of my goals as I was stepping into the superintendency was, well, I have many goals, but one of the immediate ones was to bring the Special Services Department back to the board office. And I'm happy to report that we are just about there. Mary Elizabeth moved all of her items. Well, she didn't do it herself, but her desk is there, and her two ladies will be over here when we return from winter break. So very happy that we will welcome them back. We'll have a nice cohesive team at the board office, and I would like to also thank our buildings and grounds crew. They've been working over the weekends, at night, during the day, painting, moving, shelving, and cabinets and files, copiers. So thank you very much to the B&G crew, and also welcome Special Services.
Welcome. Just wanted to note that we are moving our recognition of outgoing board members to the announcement section. At this time, we are going to recognize Ms. Susie Shrem, Ms. Jessica Piernick, and Ms. Carrie Jankowski for their time spent on this board dedicating for the betterment of the Marlboro School District and dedicating their personal time for the community. So we really thank you for everything that you've done on the board as well as in the community. Congratulations. We're going to miss you. Can I have the board members come and take a picture? Let's go in front of the...
Should it say? Is there a typo?
No, but she's asking how old my littlest was.
Let me see. Pretty. That's really nice.
on today. I'm doing a lot of work. Congratulations again. School bus driver and building maintenance personnel motor vehicle abstracts. Vin?
Yep, all abstracts were run and all have privileges in good standing.
Thank you. Public comments? Is there anyone signed up?
I have none signed up. Would
Did anyone
anybody
want
like
to
to
speak? I see none. Communications. The superintendent's report. HIB report.
From the period of November 17th, 2023 through December 14th, 2023, 3 incidents reported.
Thank you. Meeting dates. Tuesday, January 2nd is our reorganization meeting. And Tuesday, January 16th will be a tentative regular meeting. Approval of minutes resolution. Annette, would you mind reading?
Be it resolved, the minutes of the following meetings be approved as submitted. October 10th, 2023 regular meeting, November 21st, 2023 regular meeting. I so move.
Do I have a second? Aldo, any discussion? I see none. Roll call.
Mrs. Piernick?
Yes.
Mrs. Shrem?
Yes.
Mrs. Belomo?
Yes.
Mrs. Jankowski?
Yes.
Mr. Olansky?
Yes.
Mrs. Mendez?
Yes.
Mr. Petruno?
Yes.
Mrs. Seward?
Yes.
And Mrs. Rosado?
Yes. Business administrators report.
Yep, so this is the monthly submission for the board secretary's monthly certification for the month ending November 2023.
Payroll.
This is the payroll certification for the month ending November 2023.
Committee reports. Annette, communications.
Yep. On December 12th, I met the Communications Committee met with Michael, Vin, and Morgan. We discussed the upcoming January coffee chat. So I'll give you some of my my bullet points. The date that we have set is a Monday, January 22nd, from 6 to 8 p.m. We'll be holding it at the board building. We're going to try something a little different for this coffee chat, being that childcare was a little bit of a deterrent. So at this coffee chat, you are welcome to bring your children. We're splitting the boardroom in half, and we'll have childcare on one side of the wall and the coffee chat on the other. So if not having anyone to stay with your children was a deterrent, we're going to have very trustworthy people. Mr. Vallone and Morgan Gross have even stepped up to the plate and offered their babysitting services during the 6 to 8 p.m. window. Our guest for the coffee chat will be Mr. Vin Caravallo, where we'll be talking about the budget. So if there is anyone in the district that's interested in having a more off-the-cuff conversation about the budget, any Q&As, anything that may be confusing or a little convoluted at the meetings, you are very welcome to attend this coffee chat and bring any of your questions, anything that you would like explained to you. Obviously, Vin is the guru of budget, so he is offering his time. So very much looking forward to this one. One last final note that we have is the flyer will be sent out after winter break, since most of us are brain dead this week. So look out for the flyer when we return back in January. And we're working on pizza donations. So if there's any small business in the town that would like to donate a slice per kid, definitely feel free to reach out. But I'm really excited about this one because I know the budget can be a little confusing here at the meeting with the presentation. So it's really an opportunity for you to come out and have things explained to you starting in January. We have January through April, which is budget season. So we're going to kick it off with some communication. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Annette. It was such a great idea for the childcare option. Also, I know so many parents are going to appreciate that. So
yeah, I have
thank
to give
you.
Danielle Belomo credit for that because she knows
Thank you,
what
Danielle.
it's
That's
like to leave
great.
your family home and head out on a school night. So we ran with it, and it seems to be working really well.
Policy Committee, Val?
Sure, a couple of things. First thing is just an update on policy 5756 was the transgender student. So the appeal is being filed this week to the injunction that was placed, the lawsuit against us by the Attorney General. So the appeal is being filed this week. just to update all of you. A couple of other things. So up for second read this evening is policy 0152, which is board officers. Just want to prepare anybody who's watching, who's going to come January 2nd. January 2nd is the reorg, which means that a couple of things happen, but one is you vote in the board officers for the year. So that would be board president and vice president. So there were a couple of nuances and changes to that policy that you will see. And so you'll see that people will be nominated for board president and vice president on January 2nd. They will not need a second. A name can be announced. And then after all nominations are put in, people will have the opportunity on the board, obviously, to vote those positions in. And so that's kind of what's going to happen at reorg, and that's what's up for second read this evening. The other policy that's up for second read is policy 5350, which is pupil suicide prevention. And so you'll see there are a couple of nuances in there. It's about, Jessica, you had given some insight as to the assessment taking place before the school day ends. So we also added in there that if the school day is coming to a close and they can't conduct that initial assessment, that the parent will have the opportunity to at least take the child, and the parent will then assume all responsibility for that assessment, obviously, if that's the recommendation needed. The policy committee worked hard, as I said in the last meeting, with Mr. Ballone, Mr. Zittimer, and some of the staff regarding just when the parent should be involved. And so we wanted the parents to be involved right up front, to feel like they're in the know and they can obviously have a voice in that piece of the assessment and the results and so forth. So those are the changes that are for second read. The one that's up for first read, which you'll see we're voting on later, will be policy 2270, which is religion in the schools. And so I just want to make sure that everybody is aware that the Board of Education recognizes the belief and disbelief are matters of personal conviction rather than governmental authority. And so all of your rights are protected by the First Amendment. And so you'll see some of those changes in there. The piece is to make sure that, you can observe your religion. It's just there's some outline, right, that comes from the U.S. Department of Education guidance about when prayer can happen, right? Your own prayer, your own beliefs will be protected. And whatever your religion that you practice. And so you'll just see all of that in there, making sure that we're inclusive and that everybody feels welcome and they can exercise their rights, obviously, during non-instructional school time. So you'll see all of that mapped out in religion in schools. Again, if you have any questions, concerns, want us to look at any policies, I always welcome all of you to kind of send us an email, and we're happy to look at them. So that's the update for policy.
Thank you, Val. Safety and security, Michael?
Sure. Safety and security met today.
I can't hear you. I think it went off.
Go on. Okay, we met today. Before I begin, I want to thank Susie and Kerry for being on the committee with me this year. Yeah, they were a great help, great asset to the committee. I will miss you next year. Our main focus today was, those you don't know, last year a law was signed by Governor Murphy. It required all New Jersey public school districts to create threat assessment teams by the 23-24 school year to identify students who may pose a threat to school safety. So we were required to have a threat assessment team. We went over and above. Each one of our schools has a threat assessment team. The teams on each school consist of a school psychologist, a counselor, social worker, or another school employee with expertise in student counseling, a teacher, a school principal, or other senior administrator, a Safe Schools resource officer, employee who serves as a school liaison to law enforcement, and the designated school safety specialist. In a nutshell, the school safety team, threat assessment team, is supposed to be proactive. It's supposed to assess and determine someone who may act out before they act out to try to mediate that before it happens. I want to give Mike Malone a second to maybe give us a little bit of insight into the inner workings of it.
Sure. So we have in district, we have a Google Classroom, so it's essentially a one-stop shop for all of our staff members, as well as those on the threat assessment teams for the various forms and processes that we have. So we have the building-based teams outlined, so everyone knows who is on that team by name. Then we have a threat assessment team flow chart. Some people like visually to see sort of the steps in the process that we take, so we have that in flow chart form. We also have an initial reporting form. It's a Google form, so anyone can report any threat. It's then, we have a screener template, and then that goes through all the way and we close the loop with an intervention and monitoring system, which is another form. So all of that was provided to us through templates, but we just made it specific for us. And what it also provides is consistency across the district. So thank you for your work that you've done as the Safety and Security Committee. And we on our end, on administration and in each building, we are carrying those out in a consistent manner.
Correct, thank you. As well as, you didn't mention, there's also mandated training by the state, and everybody's had the mandated training as well.
Yes, everyone on the team, yeah.
And the policy committee had to come up with a policy as well, mandated by the law, and we did that as well. So we had the policy in place as well.
Yeah, just one thing on that, and thank you, Michael, for providing insight. Policy and Regulation 2419 outlined the threat assessment team. So if anybody's interested in understanding kind of the workings of it and how it ties into the school district, we took a lot of Michael's advice and worked with Mr. Zittimer as well. So thank you.
Thank you. And that's what I got. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael. Special Education Committee. Carrie?
Special Education Committee met yesterday with Mary Elizabeth virtually. It was myself, Val, and Mary Elizabeth. And we were updated on a few things. Mary Elizabeth is working on her budget for the new year with Vin going forward. And also, Mary Elizabeth had a meeting with SCOPE and CPAG representatives, and that they are now talking together and prioritizing together and kind of recognizing that they have similar goals in improving special education in the district. They are moving meetings to in-person in the near future, which will be wonderful, to be meeting in person, highlighting speakers that the special education parents would find useful and beneficial, and that's what we talked about. I just want to say on another note, it's been my privilege. I'm very grateful that I was asked to chair the Special Education Committee. For those of you who don't know me, special education is a real passion of mine, so it affects me professionally as well as personally. Sorry, a little cough. So it has really been an honor serving the community and the special education students in this capacity, working with Val, getting to know Mary Elizabeth, SCOPE, and CPAG, and I'm just really grateful for the opportunity. So thank you for trusting me with this job.
Thank you so much, Carrie. It's not listed on the agenda, but I'm going to speak on behalf of the Curriculum Committee, just in terms of later on in the agenda, you're going to see in Curriculum Matters, we'll be approving curriculum guides that were on the last agenda last month, included comprehensive health, K through 8, educational technology, Spanish, Greek and Latin roots, visual and performing arts, and visual arts. I just wanted to speak a little bit about the health standards and the health curriculum. Last year, many of you know that we identified several standards in the health curriculum that brought about concerns to parents and the community members, and we walked you through the process of that revision last year, as well as how you could opt out of standards that you weren't comfortable about your child's learning about in school. That is still consistent this year as well, and those changes have remained in place. I also want to draw your attention to additional standards and topics that will be covered in grades 5 through 8 specifically that parents may or may not have known about. These have always been there from the state of New Jersey, but when reading through them, I personally wanted to make sure that parents are aware. And as always, once they're posted, please read through the guides, see any concerns that you have. Feel free to reach out to us. Grade 5, just some topics that are covered. The relationship between sexual intercourse and human reproduction, different ways pregnancy can occur, healthy and unhealthy ways children interact with their parents. In grade 6, some topics, human reproductive system, pregnancy, parenting, adoption, and abortion, healthy decisions regarding sex, short-term and long-term contraception, sexually transmitted infections and diseases, and different types of sexual violence. Grade 7, human reproductive systems and natural variations of such, pregnancy testing, pregnancy options, parenting, abortion, and adoption, healthy decisions regarding sex, and definitions of sexual consent and violence. And then in grade 8, pregnancy options and parenting options, when to engage in sexual behaviors, where to find services to test for STDs, defining sexual consent and violence, and STD discussions. In addition, in grades 6 through 8, consequences of drugs, alcohol, vaping, addiction are also addressed. So as always, you as parents need to make sure that you read through the guides to determine what your comfort level is for your child to learn in school. Any parent always has the right to opt out of specific standards utilizing policy 5250. Additionally, if parents want to opt out of any specific lesson or topic that they don't want their child to participate in, they simply have to write a letter to their child's principal. If you also are interested in the pacing calendar of when these lessons will be taught or these topics in your child's health class, please make sure you reach out to the health teachers as they have their pacing calendars for your availability and information. So as always, just make sure you reach out, and if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to administration. Thank you. We're moving on to the discussion of the 2024-25 school year calendar. Vin? No? It says there, discussion. Calendars first. Right? It does say that. Did I say calendar? Okay, I'm getting confused now. What? I'm sorry, Vin. Calendar. Michael? Someone? Bueller?
I'm happy to start the discussion. So I can give you the highlights of how the calendar was created, and then everyone can weigh in.
And then we can weigh in.
Okay. So we are... It's hard to believe, but we're looking at the 24-25 school year calendar. And we typically do that at this time of year as a new board comes on, but this is the first presentation of it and discussion. So for starters, this gained consensus through our administrative team here in Marlboro. And then what I always do is I reach out to the our sending regional school districts, K-8 school districts, and also consult with Freehold Regional to make sure we are not necessarily in lockstep, but at least aligned, generally speaking. So just want to point out a few differences between our calendar and the high school Freehold Regional calendar. Students begin at Freehold Regional on September 5th, and we start on September 4th, so not a huge change there. Freehold Regional is closed on Veterans Day, and we are open. Freehold Regional reopens from spring break on what is known as Easter Monday. On the Tuesday after Easter Monday. So they're closed on Easter Monday. We reopen on Easter Monday, which is April 21st. Freehold Regional is closed on June 19th. We have a one-session day. It's toward the end of our school year. It's the penultimate day, I believe, of our school year. And then, yes, our last day is the 20th of June, and Freehold Regional's last day is June 24th. The other thing I just want to bring to your attention, this board has done a really good job in recognizing the many different religions and communities within our town. And we've had several groups of different communities come and ask for certain holidays to either be closed, at least for students and perhaps for staff. So for the 24-25 school year, I'm happy to announce that we were able to include Lunar New Year, Diwali, and Eid. And they all fall within the week, during the week on the 24-25 school year, which does make it challenging, right? Because we have to make sure our students are in as the state mandates for 180 days. But we were able to honor those holidays and all of the other holidays that we normally do honor as well. The only thing we didn't do was build in snow days per se, but don't be scared.
been
We
650.
do have a process on taking days that are currently deemed off, and we take back those days if needed. So there is a proposal to do that on the second page of the calendar. Spring break is also part of that, but it's towards the end. So as I said, once we get into the 3rd through 5th snow days that we have to take back, then we start moving into spring break. But we do have a plan, and what I found is not building in snow days actually makes it better for us instead of building days in and then giving days back. So everybody knows how to plan, they know it up front well in advance, and they can plan accordingly.
Michael, did we still hold on to closing for primary election day?
We did.
Okay, great.
Yes. Both in November and June.
Anyone else have any questions or comments? Moving along to the mandatory hearing on district violence and vandalism report. Not Vinny.
That's me, again. We are required to have 2 hearings per year. So the following information applies to the first portion, the first hearing. There were 16 incidents of violence and vandalism for the first part of the 23-24 school year, from the time period of September of 2023 through December of 2023. And then as a breakdown, there were 6 incidents classified as HIB, 8 were classified as assault, and 2 were classified as a simple threat. So we do look at trends, as Mrs. Rosado has mentioned. I think in previous meetings we've sat down and actually analyzed all of that information. We look at those trends, and then we work with our counseling department and mental health staff to determine how to best support not only the victims but also the perpetrators, and to minimize those incidents. 16, while 1 is too many, 16 is really not a whole lot. So, but we take every one of them seriously, and we will continue to analyze those trends and help remediate the issues on both ends of the spectrum.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, now, without further ado, Vinnie Caravello, take it away for our first discussion on the 24-25 budget. Floor is yours. Can tell I'm tired.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. I'm just going to stand in the corner so I can face everybody. This way you can see me on the screen. So this is the first budget discussion for the 2024-2025 budget. Now, as I present, you can stop me at any time and ask a question as it's fresh in your head. Whatever slide we're on, go for it. As we do every year, we just like to give a brief overview of the S2 cuts that we've been facing, I think now since 18-19. I think 2018, 2019. So this is proposed to be the last year of the cuts. Now, in the spirit of the holidays, I know the movie Miracle on 34th Street. Hopefully there's a miracle on 1980 Township Drive where this doesn't happen again. So right now, we're seem to face the lowest cut for 24-25. In 23-24, the district was deemed over adequate. Now, S2 is based off of the state assessing districts and seeing if they're over adequate or under adequacy when it comes to spending. We've been deemed over adequate for quite some time now, and what that basically means is they're telling us that we need to go to the local fair share part and ask for the money that way instead of relying on the state to provide aid to us. So in 23-24, what was originally anticipated was about $600,000 to be eliminated. What actually was eliminated was $214,000. Normally we were pretty spot on the projections, but again, it goes by enrollment and their funding formula that really is very hard to decipher because you don't know really what goes into that. So right now, we faced a $214,000 cut. We also faced a Chapter 44 cut of $39,000, which was basically shaved off of our tax levy, what we can go up to. That basically started about 2 years ago, which happens with when Chapter 44 rolled out the new health benefit plan. They wanted to start seeing if there was savings implemented, and if there was money back to the taxpayers in the form of relief off the tax levy cap that you can go to 2% on. So we're anticipating doing that again as well. That's, I believe, due January 30th, and then we would usually get an answer around when the tentative budget has to be approved, as we have in the past. So for the 24-25 school year, it's estimated that we'll lose an additional $210,000. So right there, we already have a hole that we know we need to fill. This is expected to be the last year. We're hoping it is. We don't know what may be proposed next, or if they continue to try to continue with cuts. We try to be consistent on our enrollment projections and making sure that it is always leveled off, because I know some districts, if they have a huge decrease in enrollment, sometimes their state aid could be reflected as such, because state aid is predicated on how many kids you have in the district. As you can see, this is just a timeline of all the cuts that we have faced. Really, the key column you want to look at is the estimated, because at the bottom it shows the state aid decrease and the cumulative decrease. So the cumulative decrease over the period of, let's see, 6 years is $4.4 million that this district has lost due to state aid cuts. Excuse me. The Chapter 44 decrease that we've seen in the last 2 years is compounded into $120,000 additional that we've now seen off of our tax levy. So it's kind of ironic that the state would now tell us that we don't get the state aid that we normally get, but at the same time they're telling us that we need to go back to our local fair share for money, but they're trying to cut that as well, based off of Chapter 44 savings. So just a big picture overview. Like, the budgets are still coming in. We're starting to get principal budgets, department budgets. We know right now we need to eliminate $210,000. We also know we need to probably offset our revenues, because we did budget the sale of the annex building in this year's budget. That is not going to be budgeted as revenue anymore, so you know right there you also have to subtract that from the revenue side that has to balance out with the expenditures. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, with the annex, you said, because it's sold, correct? So it's done now for this budget, correct?
Yeah, because we originally had built that in our budget in 23-24 as a revenue driver. Basically, we were going to generate revenue from the sale of that property. That is since under contract, where we're navigating through that to finalize the sale. That can't be budgeted for revenue again,
Right,
so you have
okay.
to find ways to do that. We have been finding ways to do that in the form of interest. Interest has gone up. We have been doing investment portions where we're generating a lot of interest based off of the funds that we do have, to try to offset some of that revenue, because we have seen increased revenue and interest income. But how we recommend accomplishing is every year. We go by a zero-based budget. We start looking at everything from the bottom up, and we start seeing where we could possibly cut, where we could possibly consolidate, or where we can possibly condense things to just offset costs, just be creative to where we can get to a number that balances our revenues. Because what we try to do is we never try to inflate our revenues. Because if we ever try to inflate our revenues just to match what we want to spend, that's how we create a deficit, and we do not want to do that. That's something we steer away from. So we always try to build the revenues first. We're going to recommend going to 2%. That's what we do every year, because we're just starting to see, and I'll get it to a later slide, is that the costs are just, they're consistently high as they have been in the past year. But we look at, we look at programs, staffing, building projects, routine summer work, any types of material lines, technology, just anywhere we can find a reduction. The last 2 years during COVID, we were allowed to go to 4% on our excess surplus. Basically, what we have left over goes into excess surplus. We were allowed to designate 4%. Now it goes back to the normal levels before that, and that was 2%. Now, we tried to not really go off of the 4%, because A, it's fabricated, it won't be there forever, and we knew that going into this, so we always tried to work within the 2% realm. So it does go back down to 2%. But on top of that, we also have the available bank cap that we left on the table last year in the form of the health benefit waiver. So we did have that waiver that we had a chance to go up, I believe, to 4%, but we did review the budget and navigate thoroughly to try to not do that. That now goes into the form of bank cap where it's reserved for 3 years for us to utilize if we chose to, just to offset anything that we deem essential and we do not want to touch. I'm just going to give you an overview of some of the department highlights we're seeing. So the B&G budget highlights, the HVAC plan. So it took a while for the ROD grant application process to take form. We did submit one for the Abbott generator and the Morel HVAC project to give air conditioning to all of Morel. We did get approved for the ROD grant. It was on a previous agenda where we approved it. And what that does, it gives us up to 40% of the total project cost. So the SDEA, through the form of an agreement with the ROD grant, will allocate $699,000 towards the cost of that project. Now, we plan on going out to bid for that project. We'll go out to bid for that project once we have a fully executed agreement from them, and then we can start the bidding process. There have been delays on a lot of things. There have been an uptick in pricing when it comes to labor and materials still, just because of the supply and demand of just having those items. We're still estimating to go out to bid, so you will see that on an agenda in the winter, just to try to really finalize that and try to get the summer work started. The problem is, as we experience in DeFino and Dugan, there's going to be delays. So I can't anticipate or promise that that will be completed in the summer and ready for the fall. But we are going to start it. It is going to be budgeted. A portion of that is intended to be budgeted out of the capital reserve account because it is a capital improvement.
Vinny, I'm sorry. The $699,000, is that only for Morel?
Right now, yes, it's only for Morel because I think where the project is estimating at, it's about 1.7 million, but that was based off of estimates about 6-7 months ago. And the SDA wouldn't really let you revise what you had submitted based off of 6-7 months ago because I was like, well, what happens if pricing went up, which you know it probably did. Can we make up for the 40% of that? And they don't really let you change what you had already submitted to them. So the Abbott generator did not get approved out of the ROD grant, so we do still intend to do that, and we're going to try to take that as capital reserve too, because that is at its end of its useful life. I think it's original with the building. Our current capital reserve budget is $3.1 million. So last year we didn't take out a capital reserve for the sole purpose of just wanting to build it back up because we knew we wanted to continue this project phase, but we didn't want to just exhaust it completely. That's not how we want to navigate or operate anything, just exhausting things completely just for the sake of getting it done. And that's where you'll see in June, you'll see the motions. Every year we designate a certain amount of money from the end of the year for maintenance and capital reserve to just build that base so we can do big projects. Here's some of the individual highlights. So when I walk around with our building and grounds director, when he sees things and brings them to my attention, if we do not have it budgeted for this year, we start to look to see for the future what we can do in the next year's budget. So some of the individual projects that we're seeing, again, we went over the HVAC project. Fire sprinkler pipes at Abbott Early Elementary Learning Center, again, they're original with the building. They're starting to corrode. We need to replace them. The exterior door replacement at Dugan. Pricing is just way too high right now, so we might offset that and have to do it in the following budget year. The generator, which I discussed, drainage at the Dugan playground and the parking lot and the playground area. We did a tour of that area over the summer, and we felt that that was an absolute immediate need, just really for safety concerns, that we're going to include that in our budget for under asphalt repairs or anything else that we really need to do to modify it.
Can I just ask you a question? I'm sorry. You said the exterior door replacement at Dugan. You said that's the piece that's extremely costly?
Yes. Yeah, we went out to...
What does that cost about?
We went out to quote because before we go out to bid, we like to just get a lay of the land and get out a quote from a co-op or a state contractor just to see where we are. And I think we were getting bids upwards of like $400,000 or $500,000. And only like $100,000 was budgeted because when we go out to bid for the exterior doors in the past, they've never exceeded that kind of dollar amount. So I think we were just waiting to go on pause and let them catch up with the demand, with the supply piece, and we were going to try again because I can't see spending that kind of money. We haven't spent it on any of the other doors in the district, especially that much.
Understood, thank you.
And Vin, are we gonna, I know it's just highlights, but eventually we're going to get numbers on these costs of these things, so the
Yeah,
board can look at.
Yep, I'm just giving you an overview of what we're expecting to put in, and then as we get like to the department-based budgets, I'll show you the finer
Okay.
details of the
Are we
project.
gonna do like we did before, like we do departments, so the department head could be here to ask questions?
Yeah, I mean, I will ask them if they're available. I'm always under the testament that I need to know what's in there and not rely so much on them or put them in that spot, but if that's what the board decides as a whole, I'm completely fine with that. I will try to focus more on like the bigger departments rather than some of the smaller ones. Because I know like certain departments like HR and stuff are like very small when compared to the whole pie. So like transportation's a big one, B&G, security, technology. Security is very limited, we can only talk about so much. Curriculum is another big one, and special education. So we'll try to, I just don't want to get into the same issue that we got into last year where I felt like we were scurrying at the end, just try to put together a budget. So I want to try to continue to just us look at the whole big picture, but also infusing like what we're doing specifically in the department, so you don't feel like we're missing something or.
And you'll provide, like last time, the binder, right, with the breakdown of those expenses, correct?
Yes, normally that'll come out in February.
Right.
We just want to get the state aid numbers first so we can kind of give you an accurate description of what we're looking at. And then we go through those and
Yeah.
I'll show you where everything is actually located, and then each one is separated by department to show you the dollar amount budgeted for each one of those projects.
Thank
I'll
you.
put that in a presentation as well.
Thank you so
Hey,
much.
Vin, sorry, before you move on, just real quick, with the, so for the generator replacement for Abbott, and, sorry, for the generator replacement for Abbott being at the end of its useful life, that building was built, I want to, what, it's about 20,
I believe 2001?
yeah, so it's about 22 years old. Is there a way to see, you know, with a maintenance program, if that can be extended? Like, you know, 20, I understand 20 years being at the end of its useful life, but if, you know, those generators are expensive, and I doubt it was, you know, I'd be surprised if there was a large number of hours on it. Is there a way we can see if we can possibly get another 5 or 10 years out of the useful life of it with a maintenance program?
Yeah, so we actually have a maintenance program for it now. It's actually no longer being supported. I think, I forget the name of the company. I think it's like Wellington, or it starts with a W when it comes to who originally serviced it, and they're saying that they can't even service it anymore because it's past its useful life. So really, we've been trying to just patch it as we go when there becomes a major issue. But that's something that the B&G committee, I think we should go take a look, so Mike Crivelli can actually show the state of it and what we've been doing, because we keep a log in the generator of when it's serviced and how frequently it's serviced.
Yeah, and also, yeah, just to see like how many hours it has on it too. I can't imagine, you know, that it has so many that it would be unusable. Just something to look at, because that could be a significant savings. And also the other one is the fire sprinkler pipes at Abbott. Is that mandated by like a guideline by the fire code on how often it has to be replaced? Because 20 years for a pipe, I mean, if it's maintenance, why would we
we're
be-
seeing that some of the material that was utilized was not the most solvent, so it's starting to break down quicker, and we just don't want to run into a jam where if it does break and we are out of compliance because we don't have serviceable fire alarm piping, that we could run into a major issue with that.
I mean, I agree.
It may be where we don't do it all at once. We may start just to budget sections just to try to catch up. if we
Yeah,
can do it.
I mean, you know, 20 years for a water pipe just seems, you know, I would, yeah, I mean, but to replacing heads versus an entire system, you know, just something to look into. I mean, obviously, we want to make sure it's working because it's such an important facet of the building, but
Yeah, and these are just overview highlights that we're proposing, so anything specifically that we want to get into, I hear you, and I'll get the information for you so we can
yeah, maybe we
can
could
discuss
just
it,
take a
so
look at it just to see.
exactly what the specific root of the problem is and why it's being proposed this way.
Right, perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
Vinny, I just want to make sure then I'm hoping, fingers crossed, 25, 26, Robertsville and Asher will be on the list for HVAC.
I'm hoping too. I think what we wanted to do was try to do both of them at once, because we don't want to have to pay for mobilization costs twice when it comes to using two different vendors to do schools that are right next to each other. We really wanted to bid those out at the same time, because they are a little bit smaller than like Dugan and Defino, and there's not as many classrooms, or we feel like we can get it done in one shot. I just want it to be certain that we're able to continue to build the reserves, where if we do that project, we're not just left, with nothing. We want to continue to build the base and continue to have just something available, because, after that's all done, we have to now start turning our attention to whether it be windows, or whether it be just the remodification of classrooms, or God forbid you have to do something that happens, like a natural event where something breaks or something happens where you have to pull from that reserve to now pay for that emergency. We just don't want to be left with nothing. But that is the plan still. That is. I think I originally said 3 to 5 years. I'll be here 4 years in February, so I guess I got 1 more year left. A lot of these projects that you see, so like the Defino folding wall, the gym floors at Middle, we do try to, like the Defino folding wall, we have repaired it. We repair it constantly. It's just sometimes these things get at the end of their useful life, where now you're starting to waste money repairing, and it might just be worth budgeting for and trying to replace. The drainage at Abbott and Middle was done in this year's budget through the asphalt repair, so we're now turning our attention to the drainage at Dugan. The gym floors at Middle, we're starting to actually look to remediate the rubber poured floors. So we are actually starting to look to just get away from the rubber poured floors. The B&G district-wide projects we budget for every year. It's the painting, masonry, repointing, the tree removal, the flooring, the concrete repairs, the asphalt repairs. We take a lot of that at a maintenance reserve. This way it doesn't have really an effect on the operational budget and what we budget for operationally in Fund 11. We would just take it straight out of the maintenance reserve account to just keep up, because we feel like if we don't do that revolving cycle, then you miss 1 year and you're done. Or if you get one big bad winter and you refuse to do asphalt or masonry, you're behind again. Curriculum and technology highlights. Some of the big purchases in curriculum are the math textbooks for they're new for grades 1 and 4. We're looking to split the cost over 2 years. So it would approximately be $135,000 for 24-25 and $135,000 for 25-26. The Math Online Adaptive Learning Program for grades 6, 7, and 8. Again, you can see they're approximately $73,000, and we're asking it to split over 3 years. And then the science textbooks for middle school as well are approximately $212,000, and we ask them to split over 2 years. This way, we have some flexibility when it comes to budgeting, because that would be a lot of money to budget up front, so we try to spread it over a few years. And they've been pretty good with us. They worked with us this past year as well.
Vinny, I'm sorry, or Michael, I think the textbooks, I think that we were talking about, I think this is the cool piece, right, where it's a blend of both virtual but also like pen to paper that I know some people were asking about, right? So I think that's the nuance of that textbook, correct?
That's correct, yes, and they're 6-year bundles, so we're good. This is really grades 1 and 4, because we're now in that 6-year cycle, and the way we structured that originally was a 3-phase rollout for elementary schools. It was a K-3, a 1-4, and a 2-5, so we didn't have to incur that cost all at once. So now we're on that next cycle, next 6-year cycle. So last year was K-3, and this year is now 1-4.
And if I'm not mistaken, Michael, right, we're required to actually update the curriculum now, right? So.
Yeah, it's generally a 5-year cycle for curriculum.
So technology, some of the things were actually, go ahead.
So the new math textbooks will be reflective of the new standards that are coming out, correct?
Yes.
And if they change anything, will they kind of revamp the textbook, or do we have to repurchase now a new textbook when they change something next year?
No, we wouldn't have to do that,
Okay.
no.
So for the technology department, we're budgeting to replace 8 servers, which are your domain controllers district-wide. That's approximately 28,000. Now, we have a 5-year technology plan that I work with the tech director on, the network administrator on. So there's a lot of heads involved in what we are phasing out for the next 5 years. So we always look to see if we're going on schedule with plan, whether it be, staffing devices, wiring, access points, servers. So we always try to stick to our plan, and the year we're going into, we actually have to update the servers, so we're budgeting for that. We're continuing to do the fiber runs in the, we're doing the wiring runs, we want to do a 10 gig fiber run in the 5 elementary schools and Abbott Early Learning Center, and that would be, a portion would be paid through E-rate. So you see all those agenda items, those action items sometimes where we get a certain part of money from the federal portion for technology projects. So we're going to continue to try to do that in that capacity. The memorial wiring project, again, we're trying to get a portion through E-rate, and then we would have to budget for a district share. And then the last piece, we did put this in our latest stabilization aid application. We haven't received the word yet. We're thinking we're going to receive it after the holidays. But we put in to begin replacement of the teacher and classroom devices. That's approximately $625,000. So if we don't get the stabilization aid piece approved, we're going to have to creatively think about how we're going to start, cycling through updating those, because I believe the staff devices are going on 4 years old, and usually every 4 to 5 years you try to replace them.
And when you're talking, Vinny, about I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. The 625, when you're saying if we don't get this aid package, right, that we're hoping we can get, then we would have to kind of figure out how to get creative to disperse the 625 over X number of years, or figure out how we would pay the whole 625 now.
Yeah, I mean, there's different forms. You can do a purchase lease, you can do upfront, you can pay for the whole freight, you can rent them. I don't really want to rent them.
We need them all right now, right? I just want to know in my head, like, if we don't get it, we need to figure out where we're getting 625 from. Is that correct?
Yes, because we caught up a lot with them during COVID, because we used COVID relief money for staff devices when they had to do the hybrid model. We felt like that was a great opportunity to just purchase them that way.
Is it true that, like, at some point, some of the devices won't update and you won't be able to, like, run new software on them because the device can't support it?
Correct, and that's mainly with the Chromebooks, the
Right.
student Chromebooks. That's really where they stop being supported, or you can't get a license for them anymore, and then they really become where they won't be supported through testing, they won't be supported through just things that you're trying to do through the classroom. So we try to cycle through it. There's a price tag to it.
Vin, can I just ask a question, going back to the math and science textbooks? Are they just new textbooks, same company, or is it different company with different textbooks?
Sorry, so science, it's actually, they're two-part. Math is the same company, and science is a different company. The science department did an analysis of a few different companies and looked at, they had to make a change anyway, so they found this new science resource to be best for middle school science. Math is the same company, it's just because we're on that 6-year cycle,
Right.
we have to now purchase a new 6-year bundle.
And that company, the math textbook company that's the same for grades 1 and 4 matches the same company that grades K2 and 3 use?
Correct.
They're all the same company?
All the
so
same.
there's no pilot programs going on or anything
No.
like that? Okay.
I'm going to piggyback off of what Carrie said. If the textbooks are new, so are we allowed to say the company name, for example? Or okay, so let's say it's here, Envisions. So if it's like 2020 or 2.0 or whatever, if we're getting the new version of it for grade 1 and the kids go to 2nd grade, are they still going to have the old version of it?
Good
No.
question. So that's why we did the rollout in a 3-part process. So last year, the K and 3 got the new version. So now this year it's 1-4. They will have the same version. They're just stepping up to the next year. and then the third rollout will be next year, and it will be 2.5. So to answer your question, it will be consistent, and we kind of did that with purpose.
All right, thank you. All right, so some other departments. Special education, one of the key highlights is that we're going to try to implement a emotional regulation impairment program in the district. This could be beneficial in many ways, whether it be cost savings from bringing children back into the district, or also a revenue stream for the district when it comes to other districts reaching out to our program to try to come in. But we're looking to see what's going to be needed for that program, and if we can incorporate it in the budget, we are, and that'll be specifically relayed out later on when we do the department budget to see what actually goes into that program. Transportation, usually the biggest purchases are just, again, keeping up with the cycle of replenishment, and that's your buses and vans. Again, we're hoping that, because we did put in the stabilization aid application for buses and vans of approximately $680,000, that we're hoping that it does get approved, and then we would not budget for this. That would be, because we normally budget for it every year, so we would just not need to budget for this, which would actually help us focus on other areas in the budget instead of constantly having to do buses and vans. Security, it came to our attention that we need a new hosting application for our security cameras. We want to go to a cloud-based server. The problem is it does cost a lot of money, where you would have to go out to bid for it. You'd have to go to RFP, but we are exploring options of looking at federal grants for this before we do anything. There are federal grants that we can apply for. I don't know if they cover the full amount, but we would want to really apply for those first before the budget's submitted, so we can really budget an accurate number rather than the whole thing.
We need to have this.
We don't need to. It's just it's at the time where it needs to become more efficient. And I don't want to go too deep into this, but
right.
I think it would make us more. It would make us better equipped for anything.
Okay.
But are you at the mercy of the internet to have images on hand? If the school's open, the internet is down, and a cloud-based, I'm a little concerned about a cloud-based option. I get having it online, having it local, and maybe have cloud-based backup. I'm a little concerned having my cameras, when the school will be open, be redundant on the internet working. It's not under my control.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we could discuss more in the security committee regarding this situation. This is not a definitive doing. I just know it always could be a backup. I just know we need to look at alternatives to what we constantly have now, and I can tell you the details of exactly what issues we've been facing, to why we're recommending this.
Right, and it also, I think some of it, with the change to the threat assessment teams, there were some pieces I think that we saw there too, to look at. I had a question though on the transportation, I'm sorry. If, back to what we were saying with the stabilization aid, is that another 680 that if we don't get it, we still have to make sure we have that? I'm just trying to get some of the numbers in my head that we are required.
This is something we would normally budget for anyway. We would
Okay.
always earmark a certain amount of funds for this cycle every year. So yeah, we would just incorporate it in the budget rather than just not designate it for transportation, designated somewhere else. So we're still on par whether we get it or not. We still have to do this. This is not like a new item that we're just incorporating into this year's budget only. This is something that's
Right.
revolving every year. We're just trying to see if we can free
Get
that
some
up.
aid, yeah.
When will we find out about the stabilization aid?
I'm hoping soon. They haven't given us any, the county offices, the DOE, the state, they have not given us any indication of when they're going to tell us when we're approved. I know last time when we did get approved for the first one, I believe it was like mid-January that we got a letter, and we were able to just start appropriating the money immediately in that budget year, which is good because then I can look forward and free all this up. So again, just an overview of what we know so far. So we're set to decrease by $210,000 due to the S2 loss. That is just an estimate. We're anticipated to have another Chapter 44 adjustment in March. We're going to appeal it again, just like we did the previous years when they try to take us more away than they should. We have the calculation ready to go to send to the state. It really shows that the district's not saving any money. we're actually losing a lot of money when people switch. So it's kind of backfiring. We are seeing when we reach out to vendors, whether we reach out to like our tuition costs or our transportation costs or our supply vendors, our custodial supply vendors, transportation materials, we're starting to see that costs are continuing to just rise. Usually it's by the CPI. The CPI usually gets set by the end of the year though. I think the CPI last year was like 5% and change. We do have bank caps available to use. Now, I know this is not something that we always propose to use, but I just want everybody to keep in the back of their head that it is there. So, you know, if we do decide to use it, we have to make sure that it's utilized properly to where it's covering things that we know we do not want to cut as administration and as a board. So it is there in the amount of $1 million, and it's there for usually 3 years, and then it expires.
I just want to make it clear to the members of the public that bank cap is not physical money we have sitting in our hands.
No.
Bank cap is sitting in their pockets.
Right.
And
So
you get that by raising the.
So bank cap is basically a number that you're allowed to now go. You're allowed to go over the 2% and take and build on your tax levy cap, on your base. So say your base is $100, and you have $10 left over, just like you could utilize. You can make your new base now $110 instead of $100.
And Vinny, then based on that, just for, I guess, for all of us and the public, so last year we went to 2.7, correct?
Yes.
And so if we took the bank cap,
You're looking right around there because
around another 2.7
last year if we
in
would've
the tax increase, correct?
Right. So last year, if you were to take in the full amount, it was I think 4.03 based on the rateable. So
Right.
if you took 2.7, that means you left like 1.3 on the table. So you probably look at, depending on, I know ratables and assessed valuation went up, you probably look at like 2.5 if you took that full amount.
Right, and just to be clear, then I'm just trying to go back to it. When we decided on the 2.7 and not to go to the full, I think it was like 4, right? Because we were trying to be prepared for this year also to make sure that the taxes wouldn't go up by 8% potentially.
Correct.
Or whatever it might be.
We're not trying to use that.
Right, we're not trying to use that, yeah.
I'm not trying to say we are using it. I'm just saying it's out there.
No, I know,
don't
and it's a
want
good
anybody to think that.
discussion point so that we all understand and we're all on the same page and people understand if we do or don't use it, what the ramifications are.
Because next year, at this time, when I do the same presentation, if we didn't use it, I'm going to say, hey, we have this to use.
Right.
Because it's good for 3 years.
Right.
So just some of the yearly increases. We have 2 collective bargaining units up for negotiation. Contracts are set to expire the end of this year. Insurance, we're getting a 12% increase from them. That's what they're estimating. Again, it's early. It usually changes by I want to say about end of February, March window. We'll get a new estimation. Health benefits, we know it's 11%. Last year was 15%. This year it's 11%. That's 26% over 2 years. That's really what's really kickstarting why we always have to reevaluate everything, because these are like essential items where they're attached to positions and you really can't cut this item. Tuition for out of districts, anywhere from 4 to 8%, and usually they always adjust their per diem rate, so you're always on the hook for more at the end of the year anyway because of the audits they do. This came actually from the website, utility and gas, so I don't think BPU met yet, but the index is measuring at 1 to 2%, which is not terrible, considering the increases that we faced in the last couple of years. Transportation, this is a killer when it comes to contracted routes and parts, just parts for buses, just trying to fix. 15%, 20%. Now, the budget is not as big as other departments, but it's something to keep mind of because we can only go up 2%. In the grand scheme of things, we can only go 2%, and all these things are well over 2%. Service contracts, 6% anywhere. We always go out for quotes on different service contracts, depending on what it is, just to try to get the best rate. And then always, you have the upkeeps of facilities and transportation. You have, the increased pricing for supplies, materials, and it's all based on supply and demand. Some of these items, and we just try to keep watch of that. Here's a budget timeline for you. So December 2023, we do our enrollment projections. We start sharing with the principals, sharing with upper administration, just to start getting a feel for staffing and where we are. I already had my budget discussions with the principals. We do that in December as well. And then our introductory press conference. January, continue the budget discussions between the admin, and we'll have the departments here. And then individual discussions with the departments and BOE. And I always have an open door policy. If you ever want to make a meeting to discuss budget one-on-one, that's fine. We just can't have more than 4 at a time. But I think it's very informative, especially anybody who's not familiar with it. Just come on in and ask questions and try to get a sense of understanding, because a lot can be thrown at you when it comes to the binders and the numbers and all the account codes. February, just continue the budget discussions. The stated numbers should be released. March is when we tentatively adopt our budget, and usually that Chapter 44 appeal is due. And then April, May is when we have the final public hearing on our budget, and we adopt the final budget, and usually we have to modify it based off of what happened with Chapter 44. And again, if you have any questions, reach out to me, email, phone, bird, pigeon with an envelope. It's fine. All
Vinny,
right,
thank you so much for that thorough presentation. I know you and Chris have been working really hard on it, so thank you.
I'm sorry, can I just, before
Absolutely.
we move past that? Vinny, just a few things that I had notated for myself, and it might be helpful, at least for me. So when you had mentioned that so far we are set to lose $210,038, I think that, just to be clear for myself, that's just the starting point, right? It could also depend on what other requests come in from the different departments that you'd then have to take that number plus the requests that come into you. Is that correct?
Yeah, so when we evaluate the budgets, we see basically what their number's showing. But like I said, we have to build the revenues first. The revenue is really going to give you your solid number to see where our benchmark is and what we can actually have on our expenditure side, because your revenue number has to match your expenditure number. That's the only way you can build a balanced budget. So again, we don't want to overinflate our revenues, but we understand that there's already a decrease in 210. There's a decrease from the sale of the property. So that's right there is almost $500,000-$600,000 that you know you're not going to have on the revenue side. It could be more depending on the cut. So you just have to be mindful. Usually I like to have everybody build their budgets of what they feel like they need, and then it's our job to take a red pen and start crossing things out, or start saying, hey, you got to trim this down here, just try to get to the number that we set up on the revenue side.
Right. And then the other piece that you had mentioned, I know we had a variety of meetings, thank you. We came to you many times last year and met with you about the budget, and I know some of us were there yesterday. The health benefit waiver, can you just take a second to kind of talk about what that is and what the implications are, or how it's beneficial, whatever it might be?
Yeah, so it's usually, it's not something that's given every year. It's a one-time waiver. It was given last year because the state realized that the increase that they had set forth for the benefits was pretty exponential, so they gave us a waiver to utilize to offset the cost of the benefits. We could have used the whole thing. We decided not to, because that was not the most fiscally responsible thing to do at the time, to try to raise taxes 4% last year.
Right.
We have not got any indication that they're releasing another one for the 11% increase. So that's why we have to be mindful, and that's why I share with you, there is bank cap, because the intended use of it was to offset the health benefit cost. So you didn't have to sacrifice anything instructionally or anything that would affect students in the budget. So that's why they put that waiver forward.
But just to be clear, it's not, the bank cap, the $1 million that we have 3 years to use, it's not leaving money on the table. That's taxes that we would have to raise to use, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not money we have. That's
Okay.
That's money you would generate based on the form of putting that on now the total tax bill.
Okay, I just want, yeah.
It gives you it gives you an opportunity to raise that money.
Yeah, right. Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else have any other questions? Thank you, Vinny. Susie, you want to read financial and business operations matters?
The superintendent of schools submits the following resolutions for approval. 1, transfers. 2, lists of bills. 3, secretary monthly reconciliation reports. 4, travel. 5, harassment, intimidation, bullying, HIB report. 6, approval of MTPS safe return plan. 7, home instruction. 8, amended resolution, approval of agreement for the provision of LDTC services. 9, donation. 10, donation from scope. 11, donation from scope. 12, donation from Marlboro Educational Foundation. 13, acknowledgement and approval to dispose of vehicle. 14, resolution to approve and accept LightPath service agreement for hosted voice services. 15, approval of change order number 1, BlackRock Enterprise LLC. 16, amended resolution, out-of-district placement for the 23-24 school year. 17, approval of addendum, professional service agreement between the MTBOE and the S Northeast LLC. 18, approval of agreement, Lyman Educational Consulting LLC. 19, state contract purchases. I so move.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Michael, any discussion? Thank you so much to the anonymous donor, to Scope, and to MEF for their generous donations. Roll call, Ben?
Mrs. Mendez?
Yes.
Mr. Petruno?
Yes.
Mrs. Piernick?
I abstain from 10 and 11, yes to everything else.
Thank you. Mrs. Seward?
Yes.
Mrs. Belomo?
Yes.
Mrs. Jankowski?
Yes.
Mr. Lolansky?
Yes.
Mrs. Shrem?
Yes.
And Mrs. Rosado?
Yes. Curriculum matters. Carrie?
The superintendent of schools submits the following resolution for approval. 1, approval of curriculum guides. I so move.
Do I have a second? Val, any discussion? I see none. Roll call.
Mr. Petruno?
Yes.
Mrs. Piernick?
Yes.
Mrs. Shrem?
Yes.
Mrs. Seward?
Yes.
Mrs. Belomo?
Yes.
Mr. Lolansky?
Yes.
Mrs. Mendez?
Yes.
Mrs. Jankowski?
Yes.
And Mrs. Rosado?
Yes. Personnel matters. Jess?
The superintendent of schools submits the following resolutions for approval. 1, retirement. 2, rescinded employment offer. 3, employment permanent floater nurse. 4, employment instructional assistant. 5, employment bus drivers. 6, employment additional assignment. 7, transfer non-certificated staff. 8, reassignment and amended salary non-certificated staff. 9, stipend additional duties confidential secretary. 10, curriculum LEAP nurse. 11, amended curriculum LEAP coaches. 12, amended curriculum LEAP coaches. 13, amended curriculum RISE building facilitators. 14, stipend mentor teacher. 15, student practicums. 16, student teaching. 17, student observation. 18, amended substitute rates teachers. 19, substitute teachers. 20, substitute bus attendant. 21, paid medical disability leave. 22, unpaid leave of absence. 23, amended resolution leave dates. I so move.
I have one addendum. The superintendent of schools submits the following resolution for approval. Number 24, promotion of certificated staff. Be it resolved that the following individual be promoted for the remainder of the 22-23 school year. Morgan Gross, moving from the Director of Technology, Principal Director Guide Step 4, $142,327, excuse me, to the Assistant Superintendent in the Administration Building at $170,000 per annum, prorated from 12/20/23 to 6/30/24. I so move. Do I have a second? On everything 1 through 24. Susie, any discussion? I see none. Roll call.
Mrs. Seward?
Yes.
Mrs. Belomo?
Abstain from 24, yes to everything else.
Thank you. Mrs. Jankowski?
Yes.
Mr. Lolansky?
Yes.
Mrs. Mendez?
Yes.
Mr. Petruno?
Yes.
Mrs. Shrem?
Yes.
Mrs. Piernick?
Yes.
And Mrs. Rosado?
Yes. On behalf of the board, I'd love to congratulate Ms. Morgan Gross to Assistant Superintendent. There are retirement comments. Michael?
There are. Would you mind if I just read something regarding the
Of
assistant
course.
superintendent search? Okay. Just want to let everyone know the process that was had. The selection of Marlboro's assistant superintendent began back in October. Between October and November, a comprehensive search and interview process took place, which involved a considerable amount of stakeholder input, including a community member. I would like to thank all members of the search committees, which we had many, for dedicating so much of their time to assist me throughout this multi-step process. So thank you. In addition, I would like to thank the Board of Education for supporting my recommendation tonight of Mrs. Morgan Gross to be the next Assistant Superintendent of MTPS. The time you took to carefully read through my updates, I know they were long, along the way does not go unnoticed. There is a great partnership and level of respect between the board and administration, which allows for progress such as this to be made in our great school district. Mrs. Gross has a deep knowledge base and experience in the area of technology, as well as curriculum and instruction. She's developed standards-aligned assessments and curation of resources for effective teaching. She was instrumental played an instrumental role in revising ELA units of study, a daily resource for teachers who are the boots on the ground. Leadership as a curriculum supervisor involving the creation of new courses and revision of related courses. She's currently serving her second term as an executive team member of the Monmouth County Curriculum Consortium, which, if you don't know, is a county-wide group fostering collaboration among school districts from various counties, not only just Monmouth County. She was selected by the NJDOE to revise ELA standards and review assessment items, including participation in a team visit to New Mexico to work with other educators around the nation for enriched insights applicable to Marlboro and beyond. Her extensive curriculum experience spanning local, county, and state levels was just one reason why she's a great fit here. Over her 10-year tenure at MTPS, Mrs. Gross has held the roles of teacher, supervisor, vice principal, and director. She not only met but exceeded expectations in each of these roles and exhibits knowledge and experience both at the building level and district level, which makes for a balanced perspective when making decisions. I am excited for Mrs. Gross and us here at MTPS and look forward to working with her in this new capacity as we all uphold our commitment to excellence. Congratulations, Mrs. Gross. Okay, now on for the retirement comments. The first is there are retirement comments for Carol Castellana. Carol has been serving the district as a lunch aide for the past 17 years. She began in 2006 as a substitute lunch aide for the district. One morning in October of 2007, she answered the phone expecting to hear her assignment for the day, and that is the day when she received a permanent position as a lunch aide at Marlboro Elementary School. She was diligent in watching over our students during their lunch and recess. During her career, she has opened thousands of yogurts and milk boxes, assisted students to the nurse, tied shoes, zipper jackets, but most importantly, kept our students safe and supervised. In her retirement, she plans on assisting her husband at his dental office, spending more time with family and her new grandchild, and hopefully taking that trip she has been putting off to Jamaica to see family. We want to thank Carol for her time, dedication, and service to our students. We are happy that you picked up that phone so many years ago. You will certainly be missed. Retirement comments for Linda Rosso. Linda Rosso has served the students of Marlboro Township for over 25 years. She's worked at Dugan, Robertsville, and DeFino, working with students in grades 1 through 5. She's proud that she was able to contribute to the growth of so many children across the district, and more than proud to attend some of their graduations from high school. Mrs. Rosso will remember all the friendships she has made throughout the years and the countless moments in her classrooms that put a smile on her face. During her retirement, Mrs. Rosso looks forward to spending time with her grandsons, enjoying time at the New Jersey beaches, and traveling. We thank her for her dedication to the students in Marlboro and wish her all the best in her retirement. Howard Spruill. I'm happy to congratulate a long-term employee, Howard Spruill, on his upcoming retirement. He's been with Marlboro for 19 and a half years. I've had the pleasure of working with him in the B&G department for the last 7 years. Howard came to Marlboro, that's actually not me, it's the building and ground supervisor, so I'm reading this from his perspective. Howard came to Marlboro with decades of experience working on boilers. He has kept our district warm and our boilers functioning. Not only that, he has jumped in to perform many maintenance duties throughout the years and proved to be an asset to the B&G team. Howard, you will be missed. Enjoy every moment of your retirement. You have earned it. Mr. Michael Crivelli. And finally, retirement comments for Jody Weintraub. Mrs. Jody Weintraub is retiring from her position as an instructional assistant after 18 years of service to the district. She began her career at Asher Holmes Elementary School and then moved to DeFino Central Elementary School for 2 years before transferring to the middle school. She's worked alongside many teachers to support students at all program levels, including special education and general education classes. She wants to recognize her colleagues who provided the greatest support and friendship throughout her career. She said she will miss everyone and is grateful for her many experiences and opportunities to support children and their families in getting the best education. Jody shared that she has already planned a trip to Florida and the Panama Canal with her husband, Stephen, and a second trip to Punta Cana with her daughter, Heather, and her husband, Steve, and grandsons, Austin and Jackson. She is looking forward to beginning her retirement and spending time with her family. We wish Jody great health and joy in the future years and congratulate her as she begins this next adventure. Please welcome me in congratulating these 4 retirees.
Congratulations. Thank you.
I worked with Jody many, many years ago, and she was very dedicated to her students. I'm glad that she is taking time for herself now, and thank her for her many years of service.
Okay, liaison reports. Freehold Regional.
Did we do the policy development?
Oh, I'm sorry. Look at me. Sorry, my bad. Val, you want to read policy development?
Sure. Superintendent of Schools submits the following resolutions for approval. 1, second readings, policy 0152, policy 5350. And 2, first readings, policy 2270, religion in schools. I so move.
Do I have a second? Susie? Any discussion?
Just a quick, I just pulled it up before on my phone. It says updated May 15, so on the thing, but it's updated today for first reading.
Yeah.
So, but otherwise.
Yeah, the date changes when it goes for second read.
No, this is the religion in schools one.
Oh, yeah.
You mean for the second read, it'll
Yes.
change? Okay.
And that's a great point you brought up. When you see the dates, you'll see on policies, you'll see for first readings, you'll see the last revision date. The only time you'll see the change is when it's the second read. It will reflect today's date. So the second readings will have revised dates of today, December 19th, but yes, May for the first read.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Seward?
Yes.
Mrs. Belomo?
Yes.
Mrs. Jankowski?
Yes.
Mr. Lolansky?
Yes.
Mr. Petruno?
Yes.
Mrs. Piernick?
Yes.
Mrs. Shrem?
Yes.
Mrs. Mendez?
Yes.
And Mrs. Rosado?
Yes. Now moving on to liaison reports. Carrie, Freehold Regional.
Thank you, Mr. Messinger, for your report. Freehold Regional had their last Board of Ed meeting on December 14th. Their new superintendent, Dr. Hazel, spent her first week in every school, in every classroom. She took 3 to 4 minutes in each class to introduce herself to all students and staff. Personal responsibility and academic confidence were points of emphasis for her. Dr. Shana Howell, former vice principal at Marlboro High School, has taken Dr. Hazel's position of chief academic officer of the district. We gave out awards for the Freehold Borough Halloween window painting and fall athletic and academic awards. The Marlboro High School softball coach was recognized for winning State Softball Coach of the Year from the Newark Star Ledger, NewJersey.com. We appointed a new vice principal at Manalapan High School. He has been the athletic director at Freehold Township High School.
Thank you. Annette, MEF.
The MEF is once again thrilled to be able to provide the children of Marlboro a wonderful collection of grants submitted by their dedicated teachers. The total of these grants was $33,249.65. As per usual, all grants were screened prior to approval by Mr. Malone. Thank you to all of the teachers for submitting such excellent grants. Those were listed in detail on the agenda tonight. We also want to update you on the newly appointed MEF board positions. Jen Salachi as president, Allison Marone as vice president, Alicia Thor as treasurer, and Jacqueline Terabetsky as secretary. Please be patient during this transition period. We're looking forward to hosting our annual Wizards basketball game in the spring. Please be on the lookout for more information on that upcoming event. On behalf of the Marlboro Educational Foundation, have a wonderful holiday season and a happy and healthy new year.
Thank you. Marlboro Township liaison, Michael.
From the township. The storm passed through our area, leaving thousands without power. The mayor sent updates on restoration services via email and official social media. Please use this as a reminder to register for the town email, Police Swift 911, to ensure you are receiving important updates and schedule adjustments. Visit marlboro-nj.gov and enter your email in the blue box. If you're planning a vacation this holiday break, residents can request a free police security check. The waiver and request form can be found on the township website as well. Volunteers are needed to work with the Marlboro Police and 180 as a member of the Sexual Assault Response Team. Classes begin via Zoom on January 9th. To apply, send an email to kateG@180nj.org. Marlboro Veterans and Volunteers Committees announce Honor Hometown Hero banners. Heroes can include past and recent Armed Forces personnel and first responders. More can be found again on the Township web homepage. Lastly, Town Hall and the Recycling Center will be closed on December 25th and January 1st. And happy holidays and a healthy and happy new year from the Township.
Thank you. Monmouth County School Boards, Aldo.
Nothing to report.
Thank you. NJSBA, Susie, nothing. Okay. Let's go to Robertsville. Carrie.
I have a report from Ms. Green. Thank you. There was a senior center card and placemats were made for the holiday luncheon. Therapy dogs were visiting the classroom. Holiday music provided by our 5th grade band students, and grades 4 and 5 class trips to the Meadowlands Environmental Center. The PTO also sent me an update. Thank you so much. Robertsville Elementary is busy ending 2023 with tons of fun for a short month. So far, the PTO had a penguin assembly with Jenkinson's Aquarium. Our students had the chance to get up close with the cutest penguins, an experience we are sure they will not forget. In lieu of hot chocolate social, the PTO handmade winter break goodie bags for each student. They were organized by classroom and dropped off to school today. Students will come home with these goodies tomorrow, hoping to add more fun to the time off they will have with their family. Our school ran a successful Adopt a Family gift drive, accepting donations for families in need and bringing cheer to their homes this holiday season. Holiday parties are happening all week and kids are having a blast. This Friday is our final snack sale for pretzels, cookies, and Pirates Booty, which will be available for sale. Save the date, January 18th, Family Game Night, a family fun event you cannot miss. Come play an interactive game show style event. Lip sync tryouts are January 16th. More information to follow. From our school to yours, wishing you all a happy holiday season and a wonderful new year.
Thank you, Carrie. Susie Morel.
Okay, I'm looking for one date. Okay, so let's see. This whole week, we've got class parties going on. We had a hot cocoa bar for the teachers today. We have Spirit Week going on this week. Yesterday was Pajama Day. Today was socks. Tomorrow is hats. I forget what Thursday is, but Friday there is a competition for wear your most festive shirt or sweater, and there's 4 different categories. You had to sign up to participate in it, and some save the dates for January, but we can say that in January.
Somebody else can do that.
Yes, somebody else will do that.
Thank you. Annette Dugan.
Thank you, Robin, for the Dugan Liaison Report. The PTA had their general membership meeting on December 13th to vote on disaffiliating from the NJPTA. Thank you to all members who came out and helped pass the vote for the PTA to become a PTO. That's a huge congratulations. 22 families were able to be adopted through the VNA for the holidays. Thank you so much to everyone who participated to make it a great holiday for these families. Thank you also to everyone who purchased items off the wish list to create indoor recess boxes for the classrooms. This Friday, December 22nd, is Festive Friday. Class parties will be taking place, and students can also show their holiday spirit and celebrate with their favorite holiday attire. The talent show will be taking place on February 22nd. Please see duganelementary.ptboard.com for more information and to register. There is still an opportunity to sign up for Share Your Flair. If interested, please go to PT Board to sign up. And Doogie's Closet is still looking for supplies for teachers, staff, and events. If interested in donating, please go to duganpta.org to view the wish list. And this is just my own addition. I crashed the holiday fair. I was able to pop in my son's lunch and spend $47 that I probably wouldn't have spent, but it was really well run this year. They had the holiday shopping during the lunch periods set up on the stage, so there wasn't really any confusion. No one really missed any time in the classroom, and the kids loved being able to shop with their friends during lunch, so I really wanted to commend them on that new idea that seemed to work out really well.
Sounds great. Thank you. Jess, Fina?
Thank you to Dr. Stradek, who sent me information. Sorry. I'm usually the last one to go. Okay. December was a ton of fun at Tofino. The kids loved shopping in our gingerbread house themed holiday boutique, and it was amazing to see so many parent volunteers to help our students make their selections. Our Tofino Gives Back program was able to feed all of our families once again for the upcoming winter break and provide a gift card for all the children in those households who help out with holiday shopping. We also collected 200 plus toys for children that will be spending the holiday at Robert Wood Johnson Bristol Myers Squibb Children's Hospital this season. The gifts are sure to be a highlight of the season. Thank you to our generous parents who donated. The PTO kicked off December with a catered lunch to our staff on the final day of conferences. Your little elves have more surprises to come. This week, our classes will have their winter parties, and the 5th grade will have its first annual Hot Cocoa Lodge. We are excited to bring this new experience to our 5th graders. As part of these parties, all classes will be creating an ugly sweater for our 2nd annual Ugly Sweater Contest benefiting Alex's Lemonade Stand. The contest will begin when we get back from break, and all proceeds will go directly to the charity. The winning class in each grade will have a lemonade party to celebrate. Lastly, the PTO is excited to announce the return of a beloved Tofino event, Bingo Bonanza. Taking event on March 8th and open to the whole family, it is definitely going to be a night to remember. Reach out to the PTO if you'd like to volunteer or donate. Hope everybody has a great holiday break.
Thank you. For Abbott, thank you, Mr. Perno. He basically just mentioned that all of the parent-teacher conferences were well attended and went very smoothly. This week, all of the classes are celebrating the arrival of winter with class parties. And on Wednesday, the PTO is hosting a winter celebration featuring winter themes, games, and activities. I'm wishing everyone a very happy holiday. Aldo, Asher?
Yeah, I have a message from Miss Silmy, the principal. She said she wanted to give a huge thank you to the PTA for a wonderful Fall Authors Day with Jason Patterson. December has been bustling, a pajama day to benefit CHOP, successful parent-teacher conferences, a festive PTA holiday boutique, generous staff sweets and treats courtesy of the PTA, steamy gym hosted by Mrs. Allen and our related arts teachers, and morning holiday songs performed by our grade 5 band performances directed by Mr. Sauer. In January, they are looking forward to their 5th grade chorus concert and the kickoff of some monthly decade-themed celebrations leading up to Asher's 50th birthday party in May. Stay tuned, Asher community, for an update about what to expect in January. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael, you went to go see today, right? The
I did.
band?
The Asher band was great today, and they were welcoming staff and students as they entered the building today. If you do get a chance, they're doing it again tomorrow. So any board members who would like to get over there and have the ability to do so, I highly recommend it. And thank you, Mr. Sauer, for putting that together.
Thank you. Jessica, you have scope update?
I do. On November 29th, SCOPE hosted a financial workshop dedicated to families with special needs children. Additionally, this month we were honored to support the Super Dogs Club and proudly sponsored the prize for the Inclusivity Poster Project during Inclusive Schools Week. As the year concludes, SCOPE conveys warm wishes for a joyous holiday season, as well as a happy, healthy, and prosperous new year. Please anticipate updates on our forthcoming grant awards in January.
Thank you. Val, CPAG?
CPAC would like to acknowledge all the hard work that the outgoing Board of Ed members have done, especially regarding special education initiatives. We are hoping that the newest Board of Ed members continue these efforts to bring awareness to special education issues and funding concerns. Thank you for all your service.
Thank you. Old business?
I think we have two other schools.
Oh, I'm sorry. MMS and Memorial. Guys, I'm so sorry. I'm tired tonight.
For Memorial, they ran a toy drive. Also just had a winter photo booth, which was really cool. It was set up where kids can come in, pay $1 and take pictures with their friends, and then the PTA will print those out and give those to the kids. So it was a nice way to get kids excited for winter. Ongoing sales of car magnets, value cards for the 24 school year. Winter sport apparel sales were delivered last week, and just wrapped up the birthday grams for 2023. And they also stocked the fridge for teachers and staff today.
Michael, MMS.
Okay, MMS from Miss Principal Milwaukee. We thank the Marlboro Recreation Department, PTO, Chartwells, and Lowe's for contributing to the senior holiday luncheon and concert. Over 100 senior citizens attended the program. Vincent Palmero, on Chartwell's manager, served as head chef. PTO volunteers assisted in organizing the luncheon. A special thank you to Lowe's, who donated poinsettia plants that were used as table centerpieces and then gifted to senior citizens. And then the student choral and band groups were also awesome. Student Council and PTO partnered to organize the annual Toys for Tots drive. Thank you to MMS families for donating toys, and to the Student Council members who wrapped and prepared packages for delivery to many families in our town. These special projects make the holiday season even brighter. Special shout out to PTO President Lauren Diana and her team for surprising staff with a coffee bar and crumble cookies this past Friday. It was a delicious treat and a great way to begin the holiday celebrations. From Lauren Diana and the PTO. We wrapped up our Scholastic Book Fair last week. Thanks to all that shopped, as well as our parent volunteers, and congratulations to our raffle winners. And the cookie crumble must have been pretty good, because we would not crumble without you. A big thank you for all that they do. The PTO provided delicious crumble cookies and iced coffee from Starbucks to the MMS teachers and staff last week. Thanks to all for attending the 6th and 7th grade events at Dave & Buster's and Top Golf. We had an unprecedented turnout, and the kids had a great time. Thank you to our parent chaperones for helping make this event even happen. 8th grade parents, stay tuned for the 8th grade dance, save the date, and other important information is coming your way mid-January. That's it.
Thank you. Okay, old business. Carrie.
I just wanted to give a shout out and a huge thank you. The Board of Ed was invited to Marlboro's Multicultural Day event, which was at Marlboro High School on December 5th. So I wanted to thank their Multicultural Committee and the chairs of the committee, Ms. Wei Yoon and Ms. Rita Verma, who sent us the invitation, and she also invited her family. So I took my little Lily, 6 years old, to the event. I I sat next to Mr. Ballone, and I got a chance to actually meet Dr. Hazel in person, and I thought it was phenomenal. It was a wonderful event that they put on. It was shows, and it was put on by a lot of our town's youth who did an amazing job. My daughter was very impressed and captivated. And then afterwards, they had the entire cafeteria set up with food and games and prizes, and they set it up for kids to basically get their passport stamped in each one of the countries that was represented. They had so much food. They put on a lot of hard work. So I highly encourage that if you've never attended it, next year I'm sure that it will continue to be an annual event. It's very family oriented, so I just encourage everybody to just go and meet community members and see what different cultures are represented here in Marlboro. It was beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. It sounds wonderful. Anyone else have old business? New business? New. Public comments? Anyone?
I have no one. Would anybody like to speak?
No one? I see none. Okay. That's it. I get a second on that, right? You don't have anything else, right? So I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Susie? Any discussion? I see none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Have a wonderful night. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Happy New Year.